Call to the stand, Kelly Simon. May I proceed, Your Honor?
Yes.
Please state your name for the benefit of the court.
My name is Kelly Simon.
And what is your relation to Jordan Simon?
Jordan was my daughter.
Could you describe your daughter for the court today, Miss Simon?
Jordan was always outgoing and friendly, and running was what she loved to do. It was something that we did together to bond.
How did you encourage your daughter's running career?
Well, every year I had to pinch pennies for her to attend a summer training program as a single working mother, but it was where she got real competition, and she was training under Charlie McAllister.
Miss Simon, who is Charlie McAllister?
Charlie is a former Olympian, and he was also the person to introduce us to Terry Swift.
And who, Miss Simon, is Terry Swift?
Terry Swift was the coach at Ruffed Grouse and the person who had offered us a scholarship.
Permission to approach the witness, Your Honor, with what has been pre-marked as Exhibit 6. We have already distributed to the opposing counsel a copy. And permission to approach the bench, Your Honor?
Sure.
We would like to take this time to give you a packet of all of the exhibits that will be used over the course of today. A similar packet has already been distributed to the defense. Ms. Simon, could you identify for the court what Exhibit 6 is?
This is an email exchange between the athletic director, Jamie Hager, and I concerning Jordan's attendance to Ruffed Grouse.
And is this a fair and accurate representation of that exchange?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, at this time, we would like to admit Exhibit 6 into evidence.
Any objection?
I have no objection, Your Honor.
It is admitted.
Could you describe the nature of this conversation?
I had initially been concerned about Jordan attending Ruffed Grouse because she had been to public schools and her academics weren't that great, but athletic director Jamie Hager had assured me that as long as Jordan was performing well in track and she was winning races, that her academics didn't matter and that her scholarship was secure. We would not have any problems so long as Jordan was winning.
Now, Ms. Simon, what, if any, issues occurred as a result of Jordan's running at Ruffed Grouse High School?
After a while, with all the pressure from the school and training and work, she was exhausted and her times began to get increasingly worse. I was informed that she should be taking vitamin supplements.
How did you afford these vitamin supplements?
Well, after the death of my husband, Kian, I had set up a trust fund for Jordan, and we had agreed that she would talk to me before making any purchases, and it was for her future, and the best way to get her to a college was through a scholarship, so I allowed her access to the account.
What, if any, issues occurred as a result of the use of this trust fund?
Well, Jordan hadn't approached me about anything, and I went to go check the account, and it was down $25,000. That was too much money, and I had thought it had been fraudulently drawn, but then I was informed that Jordan had withdrew all of it, and I had to know what happened to the money, so I went to one of her track practices and confronted her.
What happened when you confronted Jordan Simon?
I had shown up unannounced, and I had asked her, and she began getting upset and began yelling and screaming, saying that Coach Swift and I knew where the money was going and that it was all Coach Swift's fault. I had no idea what she was talking about because she even implied that it was Coach Swift's idea. And when I had asked Terry about it, I never got a straight answer, and he just told me that I had to trust him or I had to find another school.
Ms. Simon, how did you first learn about erythropoietin, or EPO?
The first time I heard about the drug was when the article about Leona Hamlin had been published.
Who is Leona Hamlin?
Leona Hamlin was one of Wissahick's most decorated athletes, and she had trained under Terry Swift, and I knew that Jordan had been hanging out with her, so I had approached Jordan about it because I was concerned.
And what was Jordan's reaction when you approached her?
I had made sure to ask Jordan, and she was surprised that Leona had been caught up in that stuff, and I proceeded to ask Jordan if she would ever think about doing that, and she got upset and accused me of not trusting her, and I trusted my daughter. I had raised her. She knew better than to harm herself.
Now, Ms. Simon, this might be difficult, but what happened on May 23rd, 2013?
That was supposed to be Jordan's big day at the state championships, but I had received a call from the school saying that Jordan wasn't there and attendance was required, and I immediately knew something was wrong. So I went straight home, but by the time that I got there, Jordan was already gone, and I still can't believe to this day that my baby girl is just gone forever.
No further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Thank you. Cross-examine?
Yes, Your Honor. May I proceed?
Yes.
Ms. Simon, I understand this is going to be very difficult for you, so if you need a moment, please just let me know. Now, before I begin, I'd like to address something that you mentioned on direct examination. I'm referring to Exhibit 6. In this document, you said that Dr. Hager said that Jordan's academics didn't matter. Is that correct?
Well, it had implied that as long as she was performing in other areas, that it could compensate for deficiencies in other areas.
Well, you are aware that actually what was said was that as long as Jordan was doing her best in the classroom, correct?
Yeah, but it also says that exceptional performance on the track can be more than compensate in our eyes for deficiencies in other areas.
Now, Ms. Simon, I'd like to talk about your running career when you were younger. It's true that you were quite good, weren't you?
Yes, I had a talent when I was younger.
So good that you almost made it to the Olympics.
Yes, it was once my dream as well.
Now, it is true that in this running career you used steroids?
Objection, Your Honor.
Basis of the
This
objection.
is more prejudicial than probative, which under Rule 403 is inadmissible.
In what way?
This is going to a past use of performance-enhancing drugs by Ms. Simon, which, although might have some probative value, will prejudice the jury has much more prejudicial value than it does probative.
Response?
Your Honor, in order for Rule 403 to apply, the evidence being drawn out must be far more prejudicial, and this must outweigh its probative effects. Now, the evidence is being offered for knowledge of this witness, pursuant to Rule 404b2, not for propensity. We're not attacking her character, Your Honor. We're simply asking whether or not she was aware of the side effects of these drugs.
The objection is overruled. You may answer the question.
So, Ms. Simon, you did use performance-enhancing drugs when you were younger?
I had tried steroids. I have never tried EPO, but I didn't like the side effects, and I made sure Jordan would never do anything like that.
Right. You stopped using the drug because you didn't like the side effects.
Yes, of the steroid.
Now, Ms. Simon, in November of 2012, you searched Jordan's room?
Yes, it had taken me a while.
Objection, Your Honor. The incident that Attorney Zindel is attempting to elicit happened after the fact of Jordan's death and therefore would be irrelevant under Rule 402.
Your Honor, if I may make an offer of proof, the evidence to be drawn out will state that vials of EPO, the drug in question, were found in Jordan's room in Ms. Simon's household, and I do feel that that's highly relevant in today's case.
Your Honor, if I
I'm
may.
going to overrule the objection. I'll be advising the jury before they go out to deliberate as to what weight they can give it.
Ms. Simon, you searched Jordan's room,
Yes, I did.
and you found vials of EPO in your daughter's closet.
Yes, it had taken me a while to be able to go through Jordan's stuff. I had never had any reason to go through her stuff before, but as soon as I found them, I was convinced that they had come from rough grounds.
So you smashed those vials?
Yes, I was angry that the school that I trusted and the coach that I trusted would drive my daughter to do something like this.
Ms. Simon, Jordan never told you she had the EPO, did she?
No, I had trusted her, and I thought that she would never do anything like that.
Ms. Simon, she fooled you with those drugs?
I wouldn't say she fooled me. I just couldn't recognize the signs. I wasn't trained. I didn't have any medical knowledge. If I would have known, I would have stopped
Now,
it.
Ms. Simon, I'd like to talk about the trust fund that you had mentioned. The value of that fund was $50,000.
Yes, it was.
You gave Jordan control of that fund?
Yes, as long as she approached me before making any purchases.
And you did that because you trusted Jordan, right?
Yes, at the time, I had trusted Jordan.
You thought she was responsible, right?
Yes, I had raised her to be responsible.
Now, as you said, you asked Jordan to tell you whenever she would make a purchase,
Yes.
but She didn't tell you she was making purchases, did she?
No, she didn't, and I had asked her about it, and when I didn't find out, I could only assume that Terry had directed her to buy stuff.
So Jordan spent $25,000 of your dollars without telling you about any purchases?
It wasn't my money, it was her money for school, but yes, she never told me.
It's safe to say that she fooled you with that money, isn't it, Miss Simon?
It was an oversight, yes, on my part, and I wish I would have known, but like I said, I had assumed that Terry had been directing her to buy stuff.
Now, Miss Simon, I'd like to talk about the time that you became concerned about Jordan after speaking to Morgan Pierce. You learned that Jordan was having headaches?
Yes, I knew she had headaches. I attributed it to the stress of the school.
You witnessed her being dizzy.
Yeah, I knew she was feeling woozy, but with the exhaustion, she wasn't up to par with performing.
Now, you asked Jordan if she was using EPO, am I correct?
Yes, when I found out about Leona Hamlin, I was concerned.
Jordan denied it, didn't she?
Yes, and I believed her. I thought she would never do that.
Jordan got defensive?
Well, yes, like I said, she thought I didn't trust her, and I did trust her, and I also trusted Rough Grouse to guide her and not let her do that.
And Jordan stormed out of the room, is that correct?
Yes, she did.
And because of this, you became concerned that your daughter may have had a tumor, is that right?
No, I was concerned for other health reasons, and Kian had died to similar circumstances, so I was afraid she was being affected.
But Miss Simon, directing you back to my question, you did at one point think your daughter had a tumor, right?
Yes, due to the health issues.
Now, Jordan never told you the real reason she was exhibiting those symptoms, did she?
No, she didn't, and I don't know what they were. I thought they were attributed to the stress.
Jordan fooled you with those symptoms, didn't she, Miss Simon?
I wouldn't say she fooled me. If I would have known that they were signs for EPO, if someone would have told me, I would have gotten her. I would have helped her.
Thank you, Miss Simon. Nothing further.